Welcome into the New Orleans Saints podcast. You'll hear from players, coaches, broadcasters, and writers that cover the NFL on a daily basis. The New Orleans Saints podcast starts right now. Here's your host, Erin Summers.
Welcome into the New Orleans Saints podcast. I'm Erin Summers. The Saints practice at the Caesars Superdome on Friday in preparation for our first preseason game this Sunday against Kansas City. That game is a 12 o'clock kick at the Superdome, so get your tickets. Come out. If you don't have them, you can watch on Fox 8 here locally. It'll also be on the NFL Network. Head coach Dennis Allen said he's really looking forward to seeing what this team can do.
Yeah, I think they're ready to see somebody else. And I'm ready to see them, I'm ready to see us go out against, obviously a tremendous opponent. And I have no idea what their plans are, but we'll put our guys out there and go compete. And I'm excited to see our guys, I know our guys have worked extremely hard and we've had a good camp. And it's time to start playing some games.
And that includes new quarterback Derek Carr.
I feel like any reps I can get, even if it's go out there and hand the ball off. I don't care. Just to get out there and get the rhythm of, this is what we do. This is how we come off the sideline and talk about things. This is where, as little as where do I sit? I haven't been in the locker room yet. I don't know where to park. All of those things that are new. To have a test run or two of that, to be able to see, that to where week one comes and I'm just back playing football. Get all those little things knocked out and. Know what to expect come game day.
On today's episode, we're bringing in somebody from the opposition to give us a little insight on the Chiefs. It is ESPN NFL Nation Reporter Adam Teicher. He's been covering the Chiefs for a long time and has all of the details on how camp has been so far for the Super Bowl champs. Adam, thank you so much for joining me on the New Orleans Saints podcast. I appreciate it. You're going to help out our Saints fans, giving us a good preview of Kansas City for this weekend's game. How are you and how has camp been so far?
Camp has been hot, but that's what you get here in St. Joseph, Missouri. And, the Chiefs camp under Andy Reid is really remarkable. I mean, they get so much good work done every day and every year. And you look at some of the seasons that he's had since he's been with the Chiefs. This is his 11th season. The first 10, they've had starts of 9-0 start, several of 4-0 or 5-0 starts. It's not a coincidence. I mean, the Chiefs start fast most seasons because of the work they get done up here at camp, and it truly is remarkable. I've covered the Chiefs before Andy Reid came aboard, and there were some camps where they were just goofing off in camp, and there were fights out in the field, and you could just tell that they really weren't going to be ready for the regular season. And indeed, they weren't. I've never felt that about an Andy Reid team. I always feel like they're going to be ready to go. Doesn't mean they're going to start off 9-0 or 4-0 or 5-0 this year, but it won't be, if they don't, it won't be because they goofed off at camp or anything like that. They're getting good work in, and I think they'll be ready to go when the regular season starts.
Sure. Well, we have a couple preseason games to get to before the regular season starts. Where do you feel like the team is at right now, about halfway through camp?
Well, I mean, they're in pretty good shape. They've got some injuries and, of course, the Chris Jones holdout. So there are some things they need to resolve before the season starts. But, they've got a lot going for them. I like the way that some of the things they've got going for them on defense right now. I wonder about their pass rush, particularly if Chris Jones doesn't show up in time for the regular season. But, there's certainly a lot going for them offensively. I think their offensive line has looked pretty good. I had some questions. 2 new tackles, had some questions going into camp, but I think that seems to be resolving itself okay. They've got some really good depth at wide receiver. I think they can go maybe even 7 deep with some pretty good players, not necessarily a superstar or a Pro Bowl type guy, but certainly some guys who can play. So I think it has been a good camp for the Chiefs in that regard.
Most people correlate the Chiefs with Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce, but for some of the other players that are on the team that might have an impact, you mentioned Chris Jones obviously has not signed yet with them. Who is going to be his replacement, or who's filling in his spot right now?
Well, his replacement won't play against the Saints. Tershawn Wharton, he is coming off a knee injury, missed most of last year. He's practiced some at camp, but they're going to hold him out of the game in New Orleans on Sunday. So he won't play. So they're a little bit thin on the defensive line, no doubt about it. And the interior of that line is not 100% or anything close to it. Some of the other key players the Chiefs are counting on also won't play against the Saints. Running back Isaiah Pacheco has got he's coming off a hand surgery and a shoulder surgery, and he has not been cleared for practice yet. He's been doing some things, mostly in non-contact settings at camp. He won't play against the Saints. And also Kadarius Toney, they were hoping he would be their number one wide receiver. He has not practiced at all at camp. He got hurt before the first training camp practice. He was returning kicks with the other kick returners and tore his meniscus. So he had surgery. He won't play on against the Saints. So they're going to be missing quite a few of their guys, even for that short period that the starters are going to play.
Coach Reed said today that they were going to probably play about a quarter of action. What do you think the goals are for that time?
Well, for the Chiefs, they're different than a lot of other teams. They've got a lot going for them. I don't feel like they need to prove anything. I mean, if they go 3 and out on offense a couple times with Mahomes, I don't think that's the end of the world. I don't think that means gloom and doom for the Chiefs. They've got a lot going for them offensively. So I don't feel like, unlike some other teams, the pre-Mahomes teams that I've covered, I don't feel like they need to really show a whole lot in the preseason. The number one goal for them, as it is for all teams, is to stay healthy. But I think it's particularly true for this team. If they can just get out of it with what they went into it with in terms of number of players, I think it's been a good day for the Chiefs because they do have a lot going for them. It's always nice for some young guys to show up and play well, and that'll be a good sign for the Chiefs. But again, their season isn't derailed if it doesn't happen.
Sure. You mentioned deep wide receiver room. It seems like it's a pretty young room as well. Who are some of the players that have stood out or stepped up so far?
Well, they got a young receiver by the name of Sky Moore, a second-round draft pick last year. Played a little bit, caught a touchdown pass in the Super Bowl last year. I think right now you'd have to call him, from what I've seen at training camp, their number one receiver, not necessarily in terms of big plays maybe or touchdowns, but I think he's going to be getting the ball a lot. So that might be a guy, not going to play a lot against the Saints, but that might be a guy to look for. They've got a rookie second-round pick from this year, Rashee Rice, who has done some good things in camp. They've got a free agent they signed from the Giants, Richie James, who's done some good things. Justin Ross, who was a rookie last year, hurt all year with a foot injury, didn't play at all last year, but he's been back. He's done some good things at camp. So they've got several players who could do some good things for them on offense. And that's definitely a position I'll be watching in New Orleans.
With the running backs, I think it's Clyde Edwards-Helaire that is your go-to person there after Isaiah. And then Deneric Prince, what have you seen from him? He's a rookie out of Tulsa.
Yeah, the Chiefs, he's an undrafted rookie, but the Chiefs really liked him from the start when they got him in the OTAs and the rookie camps and all that. And, he's a guy who's shown a real aptitude for the passing game, really looks good as a receiver. So, he does look good in some of the drills when they're using him as a runner as well. So I think there's something there. Now, whether Andy Reid trusts a rookie running back for pass protection is another story. I wouldn't expect to see that, at least when Mahomes is in the game on Sunday. But I think that's where the Chiefs are trying to ramp him up because they do like him. I think there's no doubt he'll be their kick returner on Sunday as well. The Chiefs really he didn't do much of that in college, but the Chiefs really want to get a good look at him there. So he'll play a role on Sunday against the Saints. I think he's going to make the team. A lot of it depends on how healthy Pacheco is and when he can be what he was last season. But for now, there's no doubt Deneric Prince is going to make the team.
I heard recently that defensive coordinator Steve Spagnuolo said that Brian Cook, the safety, was the quarterback of the defense. Why did he get that call out?
Brian Cook is a player that I think the Chiefs fans are really going to like this year. Second-round draft choice last year, played mostly special teams last season, but he's stepping into the starting lineup this year, and I think he's been one of their better defensive players at camp. He's Just very vocal, very chirps at the offense, and he likes to talk a lot. And so he's a guy that making a lot of plays out there. So I think that's a guy the Chiefs are really going to like. I think that's an upgrade. They lost their last year's starting safety, Juan Thornhill, to the Browns in free agency, and Cook's going to take his place. I think I was a big Juan Thornhill fan, but I think this is going to be an upgrade.
And we took one of your safeties not too long ago in Tyrann Mathieu. We have a couple of former Chiefs players. I know most recently with Colin Saunders, he was telling me the other day at practice that he feels like Coach Reed and the guys are going to drop something that's going to come right at him to start the game off on Sunday. Will be fun, I think, for some of those players to see each other again.
No, absolutely. And, Tyrann Mathieu was a huge part of what they had going on here for 3 years. It was just remarkable. He came in as a free agent from Houston and just immediately took over the defensive half of the locker room. I never seen that. Usually even bigger name free agents are content for just a little while to sort of blend into the background and not want to step on anybody's toes. But he took over right away. And, that was certainly a big factor in turning the Chiefs around defensively and getting them going in that first Super Bowl championship season. So, it's too bad for him this game is not at Arrowhead Stadium, because I think he'd get a good – Chiefs fans would remember him well, as they should.
Defensively, first-round pick, defensive end, how's he been coming along?
Yeah, Felix Anudike-Uzomah was the Chiefs' first-round pick. Second straight year they picked a defensive end in the first round. It's been a little bit of a struggle for him. He's done some nice things, but certainly not consistently. And with the Chiefs have been missing one of their defensive ends from he's been in and out of the camp because of injuries. Mike Dana. Even without Dana, FAU is what I call him for short.
It's long. It's a lot.
He's not been running the first team. I mean, the Chiefs have been doing some other things with their defensive ends, so it's been a little bit slow for him. The Chiefs need him to ramp it up a little bit, in particular because one of their other starting defensive ends, Charles Menahue, was suspended by the NFL for the first 6 games of the season. So when the season starts, Chiefs going to need for FAU to play well and be a little more of a consistent player than he's been so far. And that's a reasonable expectation. He missed most of the offseason work because of some injuries that he had, but those are over now, and he should be rounded into shape here.
You've mentioned a couple of areas of concern, maybe defensive line, but what are the strengths of this team?
Well, offensively, you got to start there. I mean, they have, Pat Mahomes is Pat Mahomes, and he and Kelsey are such a dynamic force. It's truly been fun to watch them develop this over the course of the years, and there's no sense that Travis Kelsey, even though he's going to be 34 in a couple months, that he's slowing down at all. We'll see when the regular season starts, but so far he looks pretty good. So that's certainly one. I think they have a lot of depth on a wide receiver, as we talked about. The offensive line looks like it's going to be pretty solid. So they've got a lot going for them offensively. On defense, I think they have a pretty strong core of linebackers. Nick Bolton, their main linebacker, their 3-down guy, does a really nice job. And in the secondary, they've got some depth at cornerback. They lost one of their guys who was competing for playing time, Najee Johnson, early in camp with a knee injury. They've had another starter, L'Jarius Sneed, who's had some swelling in his knee. He hasn't practiced much up here. So even without those two guys, there's still a lot of depth for the Chiefs. One of their first-round picks from last year, Trent McDuffie, is their number one corner, at least until Sneed gets back, and it looks like he's ready to have a big season as well.
Yeah, lots of names for us to look out for on Sunday. Definitely looking forward to it. How creative do you think they're going to get offensively?
Oh, there's no telling. Whatever Andy Reid wants to put on tape to give the Lions and other early season opponents something to have to waste time on or whatever, he might put that on tape. They've done some things in the preseason to probably have sent some of the opposing defensive staffs scrambling a little bit to prepare for. So you never know. I mean, I don't expect a lot of that, but you never know with him because he's not afraid to put some stuff out there on tape to give opponents something to work on.
Yeah, I look forward to it. I can't wait for the Saints to finally take the field. I'm sure you feel the same way. Although it's still just preseason, it's definitely going to be fun to have a game to look forward to and be at. I appreciate the time so much, and good luck with your season.
Thanks, Erin. Take care.
Really appreciate Adam giving us his time to give us a little insight into the Kansas City Chiefs, who we expect to see on Sunday, and what's going to make them so good this upcoming season. It's going to be a fun game Sunday. Again, it's 12 o'clock at the Caesars Superdome. You can watch on Fox 8 or the NFL Network. And make sure you stay tuned to all things Saints at Saints on Twitter or follow along on NewOrleansSaints.com. We will have all of the updates, post-game sound, interviews, pictures, highlights, and of course, our Saints training camp report on your view after the game on Sunday. I'm so excited to have Saints football back. Enjoy the weekend and go Saints.
Thanks for listening to the New Orleans Saints podcast. Join us 3 times per week on NewOrleansSaints.com, the Saints mobile app, or you can download the podcast on iTunes. We'll see you next time, right here on the New Orleans Saints podcast.